What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfond Orbital. So today I would like to go over a demo walkthrough of an install commission that I completed over the weekend. I think I finished it over the weekend, and I'm just now getting around to doing this video. It was an install for a Space Junk Sabers custom one-off. Now, I'm calling this the Minicam scrap. I don't know if there is an official name of this hilt that was given to it by Nevin, who is the maker of Space Junk Sabers hilts. So I'm calling it the Minicam scrap because in the grip, we've got a Minicam flashgun battery tube. I just so happen to have one here, right? So this is from a Minicam flash gun handle. I picked this one up a long time ago on eBay. I think somebody was selling this and a bunch of other flash gun parts. And I picked this up with the intention of maybe making a small hilt, like a Padawan hilt, but I just never got around to it. The cool thing about these flash gun handles is that they are 28 millimeters on the inside. So you can get a 28 millimeter speaker in here. And I think it might be steel. I'm probably wrong in saying that, but yeah, really, really cool form factor. And of course, we've got these windows here, right? So on this particular build, I wanted to utilize some shine through in those windows. So I kept that in mind while designing this chassis. And it just so happens that there was enough room with both the inner diameter and length in the grip that I was able to do a fully removable chassis with a marble chamber up top. So I wanted to do something a little different. I don't typically do marble or crystal chamber chassis, but because there were these windows in the grip, I thought it would be a really great opportunity to do something like that, right? And I haven't done one in a while. So we're going to come into Fusion and talk about the chassis, and then, of course, we'll come up top and do a demo. But let's come into Fusion first and talk about this guy, because it's a little bit intricate the way that I designed it, right? So let's come into Fusion. Okay, so here is the chassis that I designed for this hilt. So right off the bat, you'll notice there is a marble chamber up top, okay? First, I mean, I might as well talk about crystal chambers, right? When I design crystal chambers, my intention is to try and hide all of my leads coming up past that chamber. And that's not always easy, right? So you've got to make sure that you've got channels or conduit that you've designed or integrated into the chassis design that you can utilize for wire management, right? And that's what I did for this. In this model, I knew that I wanted 4 windows along each side of the marble, and hiding wires would have been difficult. Like if I were to make these struts hollow, it would have severely impacted the structural integrity of this chassis. I print in resin only, so we're already working with a material that is not as impact resistant as like an FDM, right? So I wanted to make sure that these stayed solid. So I integrated some oval shaped wire passages on each side of the marble. So there's one here and there's one here. That is a terrible view of them, but they're right here, right? And right underneath or above the board is where the channels are. So it goes all the way up here, and there's another one here. It goes all the way up to the top, and that's where I make my connection to my 6-rail PCB. Right, so I just kind of cleverly hid wire channels that way. I probably could have gotten away with just doing free wires, but I wanted to hide them as best I could. We've got a single neopixel that sits underneath the marble. The marble that I used for this particular build is very interesting as well. I cannot for the life of me remember where I acquired this marble. I've just kind of acquired it over the years, I guess. It was in my bin of crystals and marbles. It's a very unique marble in that it has specks of glow-in-the-dark material around the outside of it. It's like these crunchy, I forget what the name of the material is, but it is UV reflective. So it glows in the dark, essentially. So that's another cool feature of the marble in this build. At the bottom, we've got a 28mm speaker. This is from Smugglers Outpost. I do have a kill switch just underneath the board here. Proffie board sits here. It does slide up underneath this lip. I've done some tube work and added some of my greeblies from my greebly library into this guy on both sides. All right, and that's pretty much it. Did some greebly work up top. Nice and simple. I know I say this all the time. I've been meaning to do a chassis design tutorial or just kind of go over my chassis design process. Let's come down to the bottom. Been meaning to do it for a long time. I know I keep talking about it, but with this particular chassis, you can kind of see like what I will do to streamline that greebly design process is I will add greeblies to one side of the chassis and then essentially just asymmetrically grab all of them, because all of my greeblies are their own components, right? So I will grab all of those greeblies and just rotate around axis, copy them, rotate all the way around the axis so they're the same on both sides. So asymmetrically, you've got greeblies that are the same on each side. I don't do that with every chassis, but just kind of to streamline my workflow, that's what I've done. I did that one in this chassis as well, and then went back and added some tube work around the sides, right? So anyhow, it's coming. I've been meaning to do a chassis design video. I just haven't had time, right? So anyhow, let's come up top. Take a look at this hilt. Okay, so here it is. This is the Space Junk Saber Minicam scrap. That's what I'm calling it. I'm sure there's an official name for it, but I just don't know what it is. Typical of Nevin's work on hilts. We've got some familiar parts and some other parts I have no idea where they came from, right? So obviously we've got our Minicam flash gun that's in here. Flash gun handle. This is a really, really unique pommel. There's some nice greeblies in this pommel. I'm not sure where that came from. This almost looks like a hose clamp or a garden hose, like a knurled garden hose, like female end. I could be wrong though. I probably am wrong. There's some Saber Forge parts in here as well. Like I recognize this shroud. There's some MHS parts in here as well. It's super, super unique scrap found object hilt, right? We do have a control box here. Wiring up this control box was a little bit of a challenge, right? So there's already, this was sent to me by the client. The client already had, there was like a switch holder underneath this control box. It's like a plastic switch holder. I could not utilize that for brass hat tacks. So I created my own switch holder and printed it off in resin and then screwed that to the body of the flash gun, and then this outer control box screws in with a screw that's on the side here, and this screw came with it, but I did have to just modify that a little bit just to get switches in there, and that's it. I also did a custom blade plug for this install at the request of the client. I don't typically do custom blade plugs unless you ask me very nicely. And this particular client did ask nicely, and I obliged. I thought it would be a cool touch to have a custom blade plug with this hilt that kind of went in line with the aesthetic of it, right? And that's it. So, oh, that's really cool, actually. Now that I'm looking at this, so I know where this part comes from. That is the actual mount bracket from the Minicam flash up here. That's pretty cool. Just noticed that. So anyhow, here's the chassis. Nice and short battery, like board and battery stacked chassis. And here's our marble chamber up top. So to use your hilt or use your chassis, take the flat part of your battery. Spring side is your negative. So this was already on. If you don't hear anything, hit that kill switch. There's that marble. All right, so once you get your battery in, unscrew that pommel, slide your chassis all the way in the hilt, and thread in your pommel until it stops. So there we got our marble viewable through those windows. You can kind of see on camera. All right. Come down to the bottom. Okay, so yeah, there's that marble. You're not going to be able to see it.
The NASA team is
on camera, but the marble does glow in the dark when it's off. So.
Lord Vader.
Nice sounding hilt too. I mean, you can get I got a 28mm speaker in there, so it sounds really good. Let's put a blade in it. Okay, so this is a 1-inch blade holder. There is this actually might be an M5 or an M4. I think it's an M5. Big set screw up top here, hex set screw. That will serve as your blade retention. I like big set screws, so it's definitely going to hold your blade very well. Just tighten that so it's hugging the blade, and you're ready to go. See what else we put in there.
Ancient integration.
So twist to activate, twist to deactivate are all on. If you are looking at these switches, the bottom switch is your main, top is your aux. I'm gonna get that off. One more. Oops.
I am no Jedi.
Great hilt. Really interesting hilt, as they usually always are from Space Junk Sabers. But yeah, I knew, when I saw this hilt, I knew that I needed to get some sort of shine through in these windows. And what better reason to put a marble or a crystal chamber in the chassis. So this one was a lot of fun to design for. As I said, I don't typically do crystal chamber chassis. I mean, let's be honest. I'll be completely transparent with you. Resin chassis are just not as robust as like FDM chassis. They're not. They're great for detail, if you want a lot of detail in your chassis, but as far as like impact resistance goes, resin just has a lot more opportunity for breakage. So anytime I've got to start cutting away at a chassis to make room for a crystal, it makes me a little concerned. So to the client, actually, you know, this is something that you should keep in mind when you're using this particular chassis. Just be careful with it. You don't want to, I mean, you don't want to, try not to drop it on a tile floor, really, is where I'm getting at with that. So anyhow, with that being said, to the client, thank you very much for trusting me with this build. If anyone has any questions about this particular chassis or this build, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.